This episode is brought to you by Homemade. What is Homemade?
Well, glad you asked. Homemade is a turnkey house flipping service we've built to solve the needs of aspiring flippers like you who want to get started in house flipping but want to do it with the backing of a professional and experienced team.
We've designed Homemade so that our team will be with you through every step of the house flipping journey.
Our team will deliver investment-grade properties straight to your inbox,
Work with you to design your project to maximize ROI,
oversee all the renovations, and handle all permitting requirements.
and along the way, we'll hook you up with our vetted network of service providers to help finance, insure, and stage your property.
Once the project is wrapped, we'll be with you arm in arm to execute your exit plan, whether that's through a sale as a flip or holding the property in your personal portfolio as either a long or short-term rental.
At Homemade, we've taken the outdated and frustrating house flipping process and turned it into a seamless and rewarding experience so that novice and even seasoned flippers can have access to this investment class without having to delve too deep into the nitty-gritty everyday headaches that this business often entails.
At Homemade, we do the heavy lifting for you. So if you've always wanted to flip a house, head on over to homemade.co to learn more about our platform and apply to work with us.
That's homemade.co. Peace.
Hey, Flipsters, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Lincoln, and we are happily married.
But not to each other.
Yeah, we're old friends from college, and we're flipping houses in the Austin, Texas area.
And we're taking you along for the ride. Welcome back to episode 2.
Of the Austin Flipsters podcast?
Austin Flipsters, the podcast.
Wow.
Hey, if you've made it this far,
Congratulations.
truly thank you.
You're one of the real ones. If you don't know who we are, I can't believe you're watching this podcast, first of all. But if you need a refresher, I am Lincoln.
And
This
I'm
is...
Lauren.
I want to say Lauren. I was
Yeah.
going to say that. We are the Austin Flipsters on YouTube, and we're still the Austin Flipsters on the Austin Flipsters podcast.
Yep, we are sticking with that brand. Here to stay. So yes, you may know us from YouTube where we do before and after house transformation stories. But as we mentioned, if you did not listen to episode 1, we mentioned that a lot of times we don't get to get into it. We don't get the real behind the scenes stories of these projects on YouTube. So we wanted an outlet for that.
Totally. If you want to go see what we said in episode 1, it's kind of like the syllabus day at college, like the first day of class.
Yeah, we're setting the table.
We set the table. We didn't give you any homework yet, but you feel like you get a win from watching that first one. You feel like you see what's coming.
And it's very short. I can't promise the rest of them will be short, but that one's short. So go check that out.
That one is short. This one's not going to be short.
No, because we are talking about today our most viral video ever.
Yes, we looked it up. So we are talking today about the 5K house. So chances are, if you are watching us right now,
You've seen this episode. And chances are, if you watch that episode, you didn't think it was real.
that's right. We put out this episode. The title was basically, we paid $5,000 for this house.
Right.
It's got the before and after in the thumbnail there on YouTube. And you're thinking,
There's no way.
there's no way. I got to see
I
this.
have got to click that link.
So if you're watching that video, it's because it went viral. It's because it blew up, and we had no idea that it would, that most of the success that we've had on YouTube has been really related to that video in some way.
Oh, yeah. We call it our Pied Piper video because if you've seen us, chances are that's where you started. It's gotten we looked it up for this podcast. We don't just check this every day, people, just so you know. But over 5 million views. And for context, our channel has gotten 26 million views.
Right.
So it's about a fifth of our channel, which is crazy.
That is crazy. At one point when we were starting the channel and this video was getting a lot of views, I started calculating it in terms of human life hours. It'll show you how many views, but then how long that translates into. And so I like to calculate it as if one person just watched that. And it was thousands of years of human attention on this one video, because starting out on YouTube, it was very weird, the concept of people that you don't know watching your content. And,
oh, yeah.
Right?
I can't think about it too much. I'm starting to get anxiety talking about it in general, but it is the thing. I've been recognized in public a few times. Just going to throw that out there. And it's always from this video.
Yeah.
People are like, wait a second. Aren't you from that really cheap house video? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
So let's get into it, because this house.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with the house, because that's where it all started, right? What in the world? How did you find a house for $5,000?
So I didn't find this house. Our acquisitions guy, Phil, brought it to me. So Phil, shout out Phil, is always hunting for opportunities, for deals.
And now for our homemade clients.
That's right. He can look for deals for you as well if you're a client of Homemade, which check out the link in the description.
All you need is $5,000.
You need much more than $5,000. I don't want people to think that you can get started flipping with $5,000 because while we paid $5,000 for this house, it did not cost $5,000 to renovate.
Yeah, it's quite a bit more.
It cost quite a bit more than that. I think we spent something like $80,000, $90,000 on the renovation, maybe $75,000. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was multiples of what we paid for the actual house.
Yeah.
Phil brought this property and said, hey, do you want a house in Brownwood, Texas? It's only $5,000. And for context, Brownwood is 3 hours from Austin. I happen to know where it is because I grew up basically an hour from there. My grandmother had actually gone to college in Brownwood, so I was like familiar, and I drove back and forth through it whenever I went home to visit my parents. And I was just like, what do you mean $5,000? What does this house look like for $5,000?
Well, it was something.
It was something. So we bought this thing sight unseen. I actually had not seen it because thought process was like, well, you can't lose on $5,000. The land, any lot, even in Brownwood or no matter where it is, I was thinking, what's the worst case scenario? The house is a complete tear down. You can get your money out of the dirt.
Well, you'd have to demolish it, which costs something. You have to tear. I mean, it's not free.
Well, it turns out that's what the city of Brownwood had in mind for this house because it was condemned. It was actually set to be demolished if nobody bought this thing.
Which no sucker from Austin. Got to wait for an out-of-towner to buy this one.
This was and I would say this was the biggest real estate hack because the video was so successful. Get this, we've made much more money from just the media about the house than the house is even worth.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At one point,
we should have done more of these.
At one point, it crossed my mind. I was like, man, you could own a lot of real estate, a lot of really cheap real estate if the media is worth more than the house, right?
Totally. Let's do more. If you got a $5,000 house anywhere in Texas, let us know.
Well, this was one of these scenarios that it was owned by somebody that didn't live in Brownwood, right? So they're thinking it's going to be condemned, and then I'm going to just own a lot in Brownwood, and then what do I do with that? I bet you still got to sell that.
I bet they've spent that $5,000 by now.
You think?
That went fast.
That was like 2 hands of blackjack for somebody. They took that straight to Vegas. So we bought this thing, and immediately it was like, well, at the time we had the channel. Right. So I think that was the other thing.
Yes. And the channel was not doing great. I mean, we should have gone back and looked to see like how many subs we had prior to this video.
Yeah, it was, we had some traction. We were over 100,000 subscribers at that point, right? Would you say?
Maybe. I don't remember, to be honest. But it definitely, we were getting, some views. But it was not...
It wasn't
not
hella
quit
views.
Your day job views.
It was not hella views, but I do know we were getting some views and traction because the 5K video was sponsored. Simply Safe sponsored that video.
Yes, and they got a hell of a deal.
They got the best.
I remember what
ever.
they paid.
Yeah, they got
not enough.
They paid not nearly enough. We had no idea that this thing was going to get millions of views.
They've gotten 5 million views for what?
For what they paid. Yeah, that was a bargain for them.
Yeah, totally.
Now, the future videos they sponsored, I don't know if they got a bargain.
No, that's not true.
No, they got a great deal, but we basically priced that video for them to get 100,000 views or something like that we were getting on the other views so far. So, on the other videos so far, right?
Yeah, totally.
So they got a steal, but I know we had at least some traction because someone was willing to pay to sponsor a video at that time.
True. Okay.
But
we weren't nobody.
We weren't nobodies. But we weren't the somebodies. We weren't the 5. No, we're still not somebodies. But the thing that I thought about that was like the channel at the time. I mean, it was like we were covering costs with sponsorships. So I'd say because we invested in a videographer, editor,
full time. But you're like already getting into episode 3 here. We need to save it.
Well, we'll talk more about the channel in episode 3.
Yeah.
The house itself, we had to come up with a plan, and this thing's 3 hours away.
Yep.
We're buying it because of the channel in a lot of ways, and we knew it was sort of a stunt,
A risk.
that we could put out a video that would get some traction potentially.
Yeah.
It was probably very low risk. That the downside was very low.
$5,000.
$5,000 plus whatever you put into it, and I
Right.
think looking at like fixed up houses, and fixed up's a relative term, but like
Yeah, the neighborhood was a little.
yeah, it was not the greatest neighborhood, but houses that were just like livable, rentable were going for anywhere between like $50,000 on the low end to like $100,000, which makes sense for I think the house was maybe 1,500, 1,800 square feet.
Yeah,
right?
it's not big.
No, but I mean, to rent that out in Brownwood, you could make those numbers work. So I think the thought was like, worst case, it's $5,000 that you lost, right? Best case is not great. Like maybe you have a house that's worth $100,000, but best case for us,
Let's have a viral video.
you have a
and
viral video.
that leads to a podcast.
Totally.
Here we are.
So, well, tell them about what it was like filming this thing, because I basically couldn't even drag you up there to film this thing.
Yeah, I came one time, but it was a very long day. So, okay. So back to the project itself. So we had to find a contractor in Brownwood because we, our connections are here in Austin. We couldn't self-manage that from 3 hours away.
Right. So I started calling contractors in Brownwood, and I would never advise people to find a contractor the way that we found this, because in Austin, it's like these people, you need to have references. They need to be vetted. They need to be like licensed and have other people vouching for them, because otherwise you just, you're asking to get scammed or whatever. But in Brownwood, the options were so much fewer and farther between. And I called up this guy, found a contractor there that, I mean, I don't know how I found him, but just probably a Google search, right? This guy, Zach. Pro tip. I found Zach from Zach of All Trades. Shout out, Zach. And I just vibed with this guy because I'm from a small town about an hour away from there. This was just like a small town, good old boy contractor that it was like, what you see is what you get with this guy. He's not trying to scam you, and he's not trying to rip you off. And he totally could have, right?
Well, I'm sure he was licking his chops. Like, here's this big city guy, paid $5,000 for this house.
But
Bought this house.
But no, see, I connected with them. I
Okay.
connected with the small town thing.
Because a lot of people don't know you're from a small town.
I'm from a very small town, about 3,000 people, near Abilene, Texas. I'm not even from Abilene. From small town outside
even
of
further outside.
Yeah, that's right. And so Brownwood is maybe 10 to 15,000 people. So I'm from even smaller than that. And I grew up.
So Brownwood's the big city for you.
What's that?
Brownwood's the big city for
Brownwood
you?
was the big city. No, Brownwood's the medium city, My parents honeymooned in Brownwood, at Lake Brownwood.
You and Zach vibe over that?
Yeah, no, I didn't mention that.
Lake Brownwood.
Yeah, Lake Brownwood. Yeah, big honeymoon spot for.
I was gonna say, if there like a resort there, was there like a cabin?
No, it was like a cabin. It was a cabin on their way to Austin. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that doesn't count.
Well, it was like their first night of the honeymoon.
Okay,
We don't need to get into it.
we're not here to talk about.
We're
your
not
parents'
here to talk about. But
honeymoon.
I connected with Zach about small town stuff, and I could tell I was like, this guy's not gonna. I hoped gonna try and take advantage. I think he's one of these like word is his bond type guys. And there are a lot of contractors out there like that, but the problem is knowing the difference, and especially in a bigger city, it's like the odds that you're going to just get someone who's like, my word is my bond, is like so low.
Yeah.
But with Zach, I was like, I've got a great feeling about this guy.
Which, pro tip, you want to talk about one of the ways that we do find contractors in the big city?
Yeah, how is that?
Well, we'll go through like open permit search and we'll see other work. We'll find houses that we can tell have been flipped on MLS. So one way you can do that is to see where it was sold previously, very quickly, sold again, and kind of look at the craftsmanship and the work. And then you can reverse engineer that using permit search to find out who did that labor. So look, all the stuff that you don't learn about on the channel.
Yeah, that is a pro tip of a great way to find contractors, because you can't really fake that. If you were on the permit as a contractor and you can see the numbers of like what did the house look like and sell for before, and what did it look like and sell for after. That's a great that's great validation. You can't fake that. You can't slap a number on the side of your truck and play contractor. Like you've got to deliver if you're on that permit. So I that's a great way. And obviously references and other investors that are willing to vouch for somebody that have worked with them is great.
Yep.
But we didn't have either of those.
We didn't have either. We have blind trust and some good old boy Texas.
Yeah.
Faith, commitment, vibe. You were working on vibes.
Working on vibes. This house.
It's totally our professional advice. If the vibes are good.
If the vibes are good.
The rest don't matter.
Exactly. And like I said, I would never recommend this is how you find your contractor at all. This is so unorthodox, right?
Yep.
And I wouldn't recommend building a business based on buying $5,000 houses, because this wasn't even like a home run investment at all.
It's like a happy accident, a little bit.
It's a happy accident. If you happen to have a YouTube channel,
right, about real estate, this would make sense for you. Okay, so you went to check on the project a few times.
I went up there a total of 3 times over the life of this project.
Okay.
The first.
What did you think? Yeah. So, okay, this happens to our homemade clients all the time, where they come to a property that they have bought sight unseen. Because with a lot of our clients, we're working with them remotely, so we'll identify a property for them. It's much more than $5,000. But a lot of times, we're providing them with a lot of visuals. We'll send them the Matterport scan. We'll send them, 3D render of the property, but they haven't actually physically visited the property a lot of times until it's under work. And I just think that's such amazing testament. I mean, I guess they get a vibe check with us and they're good too. But, what was that like, visiting the property for the first time, knowing you own it now, knowing you're into it?
Yeah. I mean,
was it better or worse than you expected?
Man.
And what stage was the project at? Had it just started, or was there some work done?
So there, So went up there, and it was not in as bad a shape as you might think for $5,000. It was uninhabitable. I mean, you could see through the floorboards down into the dirt. Go watch the video if you haven't seen the video, but it's in there. There were some building materials in there. I think it was one point maybe somebody had thought about fixing the thing up, but it was completely uninhabitable.
Did they buy it for $2,000?
Bought it for $2,000, put $3,000 into it, and broke even. No, I mean, and again, I think I felt so much better just being like, okay, worst case is $5,000. And even then, it was like, you could sell this if I had to dump it for $2,000 or whatever, So that wasn't super scary. The project, I was like, this is going to be a lift, right? Because I mean, it was just in terrible shape. And then to your point, all this stuff that now we provide to our clients at Homemade, because it's all the things I wish I would have had if I was going into the project sight unseen that I just didn't have. So there was no, we provide now like a 3D Matterport scan of the house, so you can see the whole thing virtually. We provide an inspection report. We provide all the due diligence documentation, like the permitting, the floodplain information, tax roll information, like everything that you can do this virtually. We had none of that for the $5,000 house, basically.
Went in blind.
It was showing up. And I didn't, we've learned how to navigate the permitting process in Austin, Texas. I had no idea in Brownwood what that was like. So leaning on Zach there as well, because it was very different.
I have a feeling it was more of a handshake situation.
It was a much easier permitting process in Brownwood, because we went to the permitting office to say, hey, look, what do we need to do? They were shocked that we were gonna renovate this house. And thrilled. They were like, oh my God, you're gonna renovate this? We thought you were just gonna demolish it and sell the lot. I was like, oh well, no.
That doesn't make a good YouTube video.
Yeah. We didn't tell them about the YouTube video because I thought some reason
we may have put Brownwood, Texas on the map, come to think of it.
We got a big feature, or we did a big not shout out, but like we featured Underwoods in the video. You never ate at Underwoods, but Underwoods is like the staple famous restaurant in Brownwood.
Okay. Is this where your parents ate on their honeymoon?
I'm sure they did. Underwoods is great. It's like cafeteria style, kind of home cooking, chicken fried steak, green beans, stuff like that. Yeah. And we actually filmed. Joey, our videographer at the time, and I went to Underwoods, and we ate and we filmed and we cut it because it was like too random to just be like.
Oh, you should have included it.
I don't know. It was like, this is too random to just be visiting. But there is one shot of the Underwood sign in the video.
Okay.
So a little Easter egg for you guys.
We should
And if you ever go through Brownwood, Texas,
eat there.
you got to eat there.
You should stop at the 5K house too.
Please
be
don't.
a little pilgrimage.
Please do not go by the 5K house. Scare the tenants because we still own this thing.
Okay, so yes, so you went and visited twice before the final tour, which is when
You came.
when I made my present.
It was literally once to like see it, walk it, scope it with Zach and put together that game plan. And then one mid project sort of like check in. And we also filmed.
I was going to say, we still use that footage of you and Zach in a lot of our ads.
Yeah, it was great. And so I was managing this project completely remotely. I didn't have any like very many pictures, updates, but I was in constant communication with Zach. Meanwhile, you helped design this thing using Home Depot only.
Yeah, I think we were maybe, that would have been a really good sponsor actually in hindsight. But that was our limitations because that's all that they do have a Home Depot in Brownwood. And just a Home Depot. So,
well,
yes,
I think they do have other smaller suppliers, but it was like we couldn't see their catalogs. You would have had to gone into their showrooms. Like we couldn't have done that virtually. Right?
Yeah. And it worked. They had everything we needed, especially at this price point of a house. Like Home Depot's great.
That was the other thing is like this was definitely the lowest grade house we ever built. Right. So
yeah, for sure.
We didn't do like we did a pre-done shower surround for the shower. We just, you couldn't spend too much money on this thing because there was zero chance you were going to get out. I mean, you had to redo the whole house for less than $80K.
Right. And you originally, was it always the plan to rent it out?
Well, I think the problem with it was the numbers weren't great for a flip there. I think we could have gotten about what we could have put into it. And, but for a rental, it actually cash flowed because we charged the tenants there, I think about $1,100 a month in rent, and the principal, interest, taxes, all the monthly costs on the thing are somewhere like $700-800 a month, something like that. So you're not cash flowing a ton, but you're cash flowing something. Versus in Austin, you almost can never buy something that cash flows from the rental side. And so I was sort of excited because I wanted to be holding on to more rentals. Not that this was like going to be some huge value driver, but I think it was just sort of like going through that exercise of putting a long-term lease in place. And you know what's crazy is in that video for the 5K house that this came out, what year was this? 2018, 19, 20? What year was that?
We should check. Producer Massiel, will you check that for us? I want to say 19.
Yeah. Well, so in the video, we talk about one of the reasons we're keeping it is because of inflation. We expected inflation to tick up.
I know. Remember?
This was well before inflation became a thing, but there was a lot of evidence that it would happen. So there was a ton of money printing going on, and this was before COVID. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think it happened during
COVID. Yeah, because I remember there was no masks in Brownwood.
That's right. Everybody in Austin had masked up. Yeah. And you're totally right. On my trip there, I went.
We risked our lives for this episode. I'm serious.
Maybe. I was shocked that there was not a mask in sight in Brownwood. And at that point, like I hadn't left Austin a ton. So you're kind of in your bubble of like, oh, okay, everybody's wearing a mask. Nobody in Brownwood. No one.
I can confirm it was August 21st, 2020.
August of 2020.
Okay, so we were in the thick of it.
We were really in the thick of COVID.
And really probably that may have helped the video success as well because we got nothing to do.
That's right.
Except watch YouTube and yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about actual film day, final film day when I came.
When I finally
arrived.
showed up.
So, well, but that was part of it. It was COVID as well, right?
Yeah.
So it was a long day. I remember we started the day at a storage unit. Do you remember this?
Yes. So tell them about that because we normally stage our houses and we didn't have a stager in Brownwood.
Yeah, nor a budget too. And at the time, one of the businesses we were considering launching was a furniture line. We thought that would be like a genius move where you could fill your house with furniture from your own line. And then if people liked it, they could buy it. But it turns out that's a really complicated business, especially when it comes to shipping couches and whatnot. So we were thinking we could partner with an Austin designer here in town, and who
was already selling furniture.
Who was already selling furniture, and that would make a lot of sense. And so we talked her into letting us stage this property. I don't know that she knew what it was or where it was, because this was nice furniture. And so, but we had to.
Yeah, it was, so she's a like high-end, almost sort of like modern minimalist designer.
Yeah.
And so we used her furniture for this place, and it was not in keeping with
right.
the house itself, right? It was like Home Depot interior meets like high-end staging. Yes.
And so we were working with her assistant at their storage unit. They had multiple storage units. We were kind of just pulling stuff that they had that was at the front and loading it up. It was also August, right? So miserably hot, like sweating profusely before we're about to drive 3 hours to go film this thing.
Yeah.
Get to the, and mind you, we were basing this based on Zach of all trades saying the house was done.
Yeah. Sorry, just on the U-Haul thing. So we met her.
We did rent a U-Haul.
We met her assistant because if you remember, she blew us off. She was supposed to come and hand select the stuff.
In hindsight, though, she was probably right.
Probably a good decision for her.
Yeah.
But we were mad at the time because she blew us off. She was supposed to meet us at the storage unit, and she sent her underling to show up, and her assistant had no context.
Yeah, she didn't know what we were doing, who we were.
What we were trying to do, and we had kind of struck this deal with her of like, hey, let us borrow it, and maybe this is a good partnership. She had completely, in the time that we made that deal with her, like written us off. And so we showed up to meet her assistant. She was like, yeah, I don't know, grab some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You and the assistant worked with it, but we loaded it up into that U-Haul, and it was in this tiny storage unit. I don't drive U-Hauls a lot, but I was driving this thing, and I had the hardest time. I had to back it out of this narrow corridor with storage units on both sides, and I almost crashed into their gate. Like I had to, it was one of these, big metal gates that opens, and I got through it, and then I had to cut really tightly back into traffic, and I nearly took out the gate. And I got a call. I don't know if you know this.
No.
I got a call a few days later from the storage unit owner.
Really?
He was so mad. So he had called the designer because it was her unit. She had given him my number because he was like, who's this jerk?
This poor designer is like, this is the worst decision of my life.
Yeah, well, exactly. No wonder.
But nothing happened. Why did he care?
He just wanted to chastise me. He just wanted to yell at me and be like, don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that again in my unit. I was like, hey, man, I didn't damage anything. All's well that ends well. Yeah, it was a close call.
Right. Wow.
But, yeah.
No, I had no idea. It's like
didn't know.
confessional.
Yeah, I know. I felt really bad. Like I had done something wrong, but I was like, I didn't do anything wrong.
So then we start the 3-hour journey to Brownsville, Texas.
Brownwood.
Wait, that'd be the wrong direction.
Yeah, wrong way.
Much further to go to Brownsville. But anyway, so we get to Brownwood, show up. House is not done.
Yeah.
They are still painting.
Yeah.
The house where we're trying to film.
Yeah.
And move in all this really nice furniture.
This is the problem with doing it 3 hours away. I confirmed like 5 times with Zach that week. That was like, we're coming, we're loading up, we got the furniture. It's done, right? Yeah. It's
also 1,000,000 degrees. And in like, the neighborhood, we're just like hanging out in the front yard while people are finishing painting, letting paint dry before we're moving in these white couches into set it. Yeah. It was crazy, we got it done.
We lost a GoPro off of the back of the U-Haul that we left sitting on the tailgate of the U-Haul, drove off, never to be seen again. So
R.I.P.
to that footage. But we got it all in. We got it staged. We got it filmed, and we destaged it the same day.
Oh yeah, it was a full day. It was a long day, and then drove back to Austin. But let's talk about the episode now, because I do, it's one thing to try and like create a clickbaity title, but like I feel like this was like we delivered on the goods, which I guess is kind of what YouTube is all about. Is like, show me the most wildest thing, and if you can deliver, like, I'm watching that, I'm sharing that.
Well, we delivered on the transformation. I was really worried. I was like, nobody's gonna believe that we paid $5,000 for this house, because it wasn't like we put the HUD closing statement on there, or there was like, I guess, no real way to like prove that you had done it. We could do that on any video, I guess, if we wanted to say,
wait,
oh, we paid $5,000
title
for this
idea.
house. I think it was believable because, well, it was true,
right?
But it was in Brownwood and it was in the condition that it was in, like, and people accepted that. I just thought, like, if you can't prove that, is anybody gonna care? And I don't think they really did. And we didn't get a lot of comments that like were skeptical of that, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, it looks like it's believable for sure.
We got a lot of other comments on it.
Yeah. What's your favorite comments on it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't read them. But like the people delving into like what I would have been like in high school, you know, I was like, this feels personal for a $5,000 video.
Do you want to get into what they thought? No, I'm just
no, it was not. I can't say it on here, but they didn't think I was a great guy in high school based on watching one
We should bring Josh
video.
on the pod so he can testify to what kind of person you were in high school.
My best friend from high school.
Yes.
That's he would have to, he'd go down with me.
He'd be great on the podcast.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, there's some things, it's funny because it's like, we have make Tiger King references. I mean, it was full on. It was dating of itself. It was not the evergreen, but somehow people still watch that. And, that was the origin of the Kitty Gang.
Tiny Kitty Gang.
Tiny Kitty Gang.
Tiny Kitty Gang made a resurgence in a subsequent episode. Shout out Tiny Kitty Gang. We have pictures of the Tiny Kitty Gang in our office.
No, that's from a different gang.
Well,
it's from a different
they
episode.
were related. I'm saying
they're both cats.
Yeah.
They
could have been part of the Tiny Kitty Gang. If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch the episode. There were cat posters all over one of the walls. It was Tiger King era. So I don't know. We somehow made that connection.
Right.
But the episode itself, I mean, it absolutely blew up, right? Relative to anything else that we had done at that point.
Or since. We've had a few hitters, but not to that level.
No, I think
it's still consistently. Sometimes our new releases will get more views that week than the 5K house, but it's up there.
Well, what's crazy about it is the consistency. Is that it to this day
keeps performing.
Gets so many views relative to anything else that we do. And like you said, it's our Pied Piper episode, which is amazing to have a video like that brings people in, that hooks them. And then if you've got a whole backlog of content for them to watch from that's how we get like, a loyal subscriber base and audience that's like into the content. It's all through that gateway, that 5K gateway.
The drug.
Yeah.
It's the, exactly. So speaking of the channel.
Yeah.
Just a little tease.
Yes.
Next episode.
So this is, I think, a lot of fun. I don't know. Are you having fun, Lauren?
I'm having fun. TBD if this will be our viral video that gets people into the pod. But.
I don't think it will, but the reason we wanted to talk about this episode first is because it is the Pied Piper. It's probably why you're watching this. And so we thought it would be, a good introduction to this podcast for people to like get a little bit of the behind the scenes. We'll be taking you guys behind the scenes on other projects. We'll be inviting guests on, both from, experts in real estate. We'll bring in some of our Homemade clients, people on our team at Homemade, so you guys get a real behind the scenes. And we're going to be getting to know you a little bit better than you would in our 30-minute videos on YouTube. If you follow us on Instagram, you get a little bit of taste of this, but that's obviously...
you'll get to make your own opinions of what Lincoln was like in high school.
Please don't. Please don't opine on that. I was a good kid. Nothing weird. But please don't comment.
Make sure you're subscribed. We'll also, if you don't have time to listen to us ramble for, 35 minutes about all things real estate and YouTube, you can catch us on the clips on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, make sure if you want to subscribe to the Austin Flipsters podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, those little nuggets. We're going to be dropping little clips from this on Instagram. So if you don't catch the full episodes, not to worry.
Yep.
You'll get the highlights. You'll get the TLDR. you know, you're not going to get the minutia.
Right. You're not going to get the context, but you know, that's on you.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace.